Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Movie Grade. I'm your host, J.R. Alva. I'm joined here today with
Clowny Gigglesworth, social media content creator and general weirdo.
Victor, writer for Modern Myth Comics.
And I am Jay Anderson, manager at PWL and sometimes commentator.
Thank you guys for joining us. All right, so this weekend we had the opportunity to catch Longlegs.
Wait.
What?
I feel left out. There's a bald guy in the room. They scare me. Continue.
Off. Anywho, all right, so this weekend we had the opportunity to catch Longlegs, a horror movie with a serial killer feel to it. It has the antagonist for Nicolas Cage. I liked it. Honestly, I believe with everything that's been going on within the horror genre, this had a breath of fresh air, I'll have to say. Considering everything that we've been watching, not to say that we didn't enjoy some of the films, this was different. This was a little different in this recent year, at least. I enjoyed the movie. What did you think, Clowny?
Honestly, I thought it was amazing. It was a great movie. It had a very new age Silence of the Lambs feel to me, especially in the first few scenes. It was really, really good. I loved it. The opening scene was it made this beautiful skin shiver. Like it was very, very, it messed with your mind. I loved it. The movie, wow.
I really, really hate to imagine what the hell scares Clowny.
There you go. That gives you a good idea.
Take that.
Honestly, I love the movie. I love the director and his work. He generally, from the opening scene to the end, he has not stopped trying to scare you. He sets up a tension with the atmosphere. It never lets down. You're always kind of trying to find the threat, what's going on. And by the time you find it, you never realize it's there.
Yep.
I feel like I have been the Debbie Downer for the last couple of weeks. So to my fans, well, what did you expect? And this week is actually different, guys. My heart grew 3 times the size. This movie was good. It was good. It creeped me out, man. Nicolas Cage. Wow. Just wow. And the entire cast alone. I really can't wait to get into it because my first impressions was I liked this movie. Finally, a good one.
Well, it's a pleasant surprise that Jay didn't turn green along with his heart condition.
Going
It's a Grinch reference.
Yes. Going into the acting of the entire story. Besides the protagonist, we had a very, very enjoyable antagonist, which was Nick Cage. Nick Cage does it again. He does the crazy. He's always done the crazy when he gets that opportunity, and it is always a thrill because he does it so well. Personally, I was like very much waiting to see when I was going to see that crazy. So acting wise, when looking into this movie, if you're expecting a crazy Nick Cage, you're going to get it in spades. What did you think, Clowny?
I thought it was amazing. I mean, coming from someone as good looking as me, when you have makeup on, it's really hard to be able to put out a character. And I think he really channeled himself with this character, and especially like with the makeup when you see it and everything. I think he did an amazing job. He played an awesome antagonist, contrary to the protagonist, who was very, very, like I say, very reminiscent of Agent Starling. You get a feel of Silence of the Lambs with this movie, but kind of like Silence of the Lambs meets The Good Doctor with some autism and some awesome weird stuff going on there. I mean, speaking to our resident autistic, that he paints, right? You paint? You're autistic?
That's artistic, you moron.
Sorry. I was raised in a circus. Can you blame me?
All right, that's fair.
Honestly, the acting is amazing. From everyone from Nick Cage to Micah Monroe, Blair Underwood as her boss, to Kira, if I pronounce this correct, Kira Shipka, in a minor role, also reappearing in another Osgood Oz Perkins. He's credited as both for his name, as well as Alicia Witt as Ruth Harker, who is a woman haunted by her past. But Micah Monroe, really great actress from It Follows and several other horror films. She really stands out as a calm but yet damaged person. So she's always seems like she's always analyzing everything going on, but has a almost sixth sense to what she's doing.
You guys relate very well, didn't you? Your skin makes me weep.
It's moisturizer.
And speaking of moisturizer, I'm actually going to agree with you, Victor. Nick Cage, a hands down great actor, and yes, of course, he deserves his flowers for this role. But I was actually more involved with Micah Monroe's character. I got the strong, tortured soul with the stoic personality done and portrayed correctly. This is what I wanted for my last couple of complaints. For those of you who have been actually keeping up with the show, there's no secret that I have been the Debbie Downer, and I have been making a lot of complaints. But this main character had me enthralled. I was so just entrapped with her personality, and she just portrayed that strong and tortured soul the entire time. I didn't know about her other work, but I went ahead and did research. Character Ruth Harker, I forget the lady who played her.
Alicia Witt.
Yeah, amazing actress. Only 42, but she played a mother figure to this actress, and she just played that years of torture upon her. You can just feel like she's carried this weight her entire long life, and she's not that old herself, So just amazing portrayal of this motherly character without giving too much away. Each character was portrayed good. I was able to make distinguishing personalities. You could tell who these characters were in the beginning of the movie, and yeah, there was no fluctuation, no inconsistencies. I just enjoyed the entire cast, the absolute entire cast, including the main character.
And going back to the Cage, as I call him, I've been watching.
Cage.
Yes, I've been watching Nick Cage movies for the last 5 days. I'm not sure that's good for you.
I agree with
I'll work my way through it. He does have a great range. I feel after a while we generalize his, whether he's going whispering,
his character and stuff like that.
Whether he's shouting or he's whispering or he's trying to
or singing.
Yes,
because he loves to sing.
Oh, yes, he does.
Oh, one of the things I'd like to point out when it comes to Nicolas Cage, something I was looking into when it comes to his acting, he has no formal training. Everything that he has done has been his own experimentation, his own take on different things, and just guidance from whatever's going on in his life and any director that whatever they're doing. So Nick Cage is literally coming in as a blank slate when it comes as an actor. He doesn't have any formal training. He does this on his own. So that's one of the things I found very refreshing about Nicolas Cage. Moving forward also, is we were talking about the protagonist. When you were talking about how it was a strong character and everything like that. I feel like the portrayal was really, really well done. It does seem like the character had autism or something like that. Maybe Asperger's syndrome. I don't know. Because of her analytical mind. But one of the things that, that kind of made me want to keep watching the movie was, trying to find not just about the antagonist and why the antagonist is doing what he's doing, but the motivation on the protagonist. And that was one of the things too, trying to find out why she's doing what she's doing. Yes, of course, FBI agent, we get it. You want to try to get the bad guy, but there's something hidden and embedded in any FBI agent. There's a reason why they do this as well. What did you think, Jay? Because you seem to connect a lot to the protagonist this time.
Okay, so the reason I connect to her a lot the most is because, as I was stating earlier, stoicism is a thing that's been portrayed a lot in characters, and it's sometimes it could come off as aloof, indifferent to the situation around you if you portray it wrong. With me, I felt like she had that because she just kept finding a way to push on. Now, her analytical mind was interesting too, because that was like her gift. It was like hers, if you will, for lack of a better example, it was her superpower. So we got to see her use that power, so to speak, but it didn't always give her the results she wanted. So she had to give it that little bit of extra. And in order to do that, she had to confront her trauma. This is something that I struggled with the last several movies without, naming them and coming off as bitter. I'm not one of those fans. I am one of those fans. I'm sorry. But you know what? I'm not going to be one today. Truth is like when you have those characters and they explain these abilities and stuff, sometimes it comes off as like, oh, I can do anything, and then they don't do anything with it. With everything that she solved, it led to like a step to the next clue. And you see this portrayed over and over, but she's tortured by something that's holding her back. And what I love about this movie is that she's able to move past it, and you can tell it bugs her. You can tell it bugs her, but she portrays it correctly. Yes, this bugs me. I'm tortured by this past, but I'm actually using this to heighten my superpowers. I use this to make myself stronger. That's something I wasn't getting from the last character.
And you make a good, valid point, because now that I think about it, I think her as a character and an actress, she really she made you wonder whether or not it was PTSD trauma. This takes place, for those that don't know, not a spoiler, it takes place in the 90s. And so, there's a lot that wasn't really known about, general autism in the spectrum. People just didn't know what was wrong. So it could be that she experienced such trauma, which they go through later in the movie, and it could be that she just has PTSD and it has it lingering, and it just she plays it off so well that you're not sure whether she has the disability, or if it's the disability of trauma from what happened.
Yes, and despite the odds, she's still able to just power through. Never at one point did those disabilities, traumas, or whatever was ailing her cripple her at any point in the movie.
And not only
it
that,
may have hindered her, but she always moved on, and that drove me to her character.
And the sign of a good director and writer is they brought it to full circle. You weren't left with what happened, what goes on, what was the explanation behind this. I can't think of, and correct me if I'm wrong because it may have happened with you guys, but I did not have anything that was given to you in the movie unexplained and leaving me going, well, hey, wait, this was introduced. What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Talking about Chekhov's gun. Anytime where you write a script or story, if you show something like say it's a crime drama, you show a gun, that gun needs to be used in a scene later on.
There you go. And I didn't get any of that because the director, the writing, everything was very cohesive, and it was well done to tell the story and bring everything all the way to the very end.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that speaks volumes of our plot too. I'm sorry.
Oh, and to go back to kind of the setting, I think the setting does help when it comes for the cast, because there's no. I'm pretty well in the early '90s, mid '90s when the internet was around, started out.
It started, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't like the Google we have today. They didn't have cell phones. They sort of had to go, okay, we have books on these things. We have to investigate this ourselves. Like her and her partner, there's some scenes that are really strong where she's solving a thing and her boss is kind of like, how are you doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just her studying, her going through everything, all the files.
Speaking about the plot and the timeline, like you said, this is very much like somewhere in the 90s, definitely
Early 90s.
Early 90s at the very least,
I think it's 93.
90, oh, really? I didn't know that there was a specific time. That's cool to know. And one of the things that, speaking about the time, being a timepiece, it really, really helps you fit in what's going on. So one of the things that we spoke about in one of the previous episodes was when you had the serial killers being at large. One of the hardest times when trying to find serial killers in general was so difficult at this time and period. They were so prevalent also. And so this really spoke about that in the plot. Was like, hey, we got another one, basically. And so to me, the plot felt very well into the time of the 90s, just passing the 80s before the information age would be probably the only way that I can describe it. The age of information, where now you take a picture, so there's a camera here, camera there, in the background, you name it. And now they're starting to get into like
on top of my bed.
Yeah, right. And facial recognition. And so going into that, this going into that time place and the plot, it goes into it. So speaking into not just the character, but the antagonist mostly, because when you get into this storyline, the plot is all centered on the protagonist trying to get to the bad guy and just virtually being unsolvable. But it's almost like, breadcrumbs are there for you to kind of finally start getting closer and closer. Like, why the breadcrumbs? And just like any serial killer, they all have a signature. They all have a way of trying to let you go. So plot-wise, this felt perfect. This felt perfect as a serial killer trope. So how did you feel, Tommy?
Same. I agree with you. It worked real well. They didn't force feed it to you. They didn't trickle feed it to you. You were able to kind of go along with it. You were discovering along with them. So you are on a ride with the characters. And I love it. It kept me going when there was the sort of partial twist, which will come later in our spoiler section, I'm sure. It totally blew me out of my mind. So be sure you guys check out the next episode with spoilers, because, we go into more depth, and I can talk a little bit more of it, but I love it. And that twist really, I didn't see it coming. And in terms of a movie like this, I felt it still went along with the formula, but it was so mixed up that it really, really made you think. And it was due to the way the plot just played out. And I liked it.
I think to go back to kind of like how the investigation part of it, where I actually looked into how bad people investigated, gotta avoid YouTube, gotta avoid certain words. So how investigations are done by FBI, and sort of by that point, that's where they finally had developed some from like 79 profiling. So after a while, through the 80s, they were getting better at this, collecting information and going over old cases.
No, I was just going to say, and I think it's all thanks due to, the case with Hannibal Lecter. He was a great doctor that was eating people that really helped pave the way for the FBI.
I'm sure in an alternate reality that's true. But and then our reality...
That didn't happen?
It's okay.
Hannibal's not a documentary. I've told you this 14 times.
What? No, you haven't.
15 times.
Was actually more credit to three different... two agents and a nurse, also Professor Ann Burgess, also, and two FBI agents, John.
Don Knotts?
No. You threw me off with the Hannibal Lecter stuff. John Douglas and Robert Ressler, where Ressler initially brought in Ann Burgess so they could develop profiling. And it's in a great documentary on Hulu called Mastermind. It's currently trending. You know what? Yeah, just for you, buddy. So through the history of the profiling, we can get how they study these people, and by finding the common traits, where there's 4 common traits for psychopathy, but not all bad people, for lack of a better term. They don't all follow that kind of ideology. Where in this movie, the Cage's character, Longlegs, follows an idea, is motivated by ideology. And he does certainly have all the 4 traits identified by Dr. Robert Hare and his psychopathy checklist revised.
Psychopathy.
Psychopathy?
Psychopathy.
Okay. I have a hard time pronouncing THs. Thank you, sir. So it's interpersonal, affective, lifestyle, and antisocial. He had all traits from all those 4.
That's another thing too, because a lot of people discontinue and they realize, yes, there's one thing about being a psychopath. There's also another thing about being a sociopath, where one person literally disassociates himself from other people. Like, you're not even human to me in that sense. You're just a plaything. So that's another thing too. A lot of people they forget about the term sociopathy.
But I think it falls kind of on the antisocial aspect of it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
it sort of all mixes together, especially with this character.
yeah, definitely, absolutely.
And I just want everyone to know that I got high marks on my psychopathy. Like all of those that you described, like my numbers were like through the roof. So
We saw the sites.
Yeah, they contacted me on that after I started looking it up.
oh, okay, cool. Just thought you guys should know. You guys are with a well-educated, well-to-do man.
Yeah, Clown U, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And speaking of Clown U, going back to the plot of what you guys were saying, I love what you were talking about, how, the realism of the detective work was there. You mentioned the serial killer tropes, and you were just mentioning the whole analytics and like the fact that the time period related so well with the plot. What I would like to bring up is just the fact that like the theme of the overall story, listed as like a serial killer, it feels like a detective story more than anything. But the one thing that I feel like isn't stated enough about this movie is the underlining feel of the supernatural, something that I can't wait to get into in our spoiler section, plug in the next video. But in all seriousness, I loved how they were able to seamlessly blend those genres. You have your supernatural aspects of the story, and you're like, okay, I think we're going to watch something like creepy, satanic. No, it's a murder mystery. Okay, that's cool. But then the clues lead up, and then we go blend the genre seamlessly through. And I was just amazed and taken back by that, because this is more than just a serial killer story. It has little tiny aspects of supernatural, but done in a realistic take. And I was blown away how well written that was.
I agree. I'm glad that they didn't take that and run with it like other movies do. Like they wanted everything to surround that, and they didn't. They kept it very natural.
It's very subtle.
Yes.
Exactly.
See, generally, good horror should always be kind of 2 steps away from reality.
Mhm.
Even though you may be in take investigations or, whatever, like haunted house stories. There's still you're still close enough to reality.
So there's a grain of truth behind it sometimes too.
Yes.
And moving into it too, going into the reality of this, and the I guess the special effects, because I don't really feel that there was any visual effects on that, because the practical effects, Nick Cage himself, when you look at him, it is just somewhat recognizable. It's just like
unrecognizable.
He's unrecognizable. It's like what am I even looking at this point? And that's something else. And everything else too. The practical effects on this, the reality of it is just mind-blowing. I thought that was something that was very, just like we talked about the last one, the timing of it, the amount of blood they give you, and everything was just enough. It was just perfect. It was a good volume on everything. So the realism, the timeline, the special effects, or the practical effects of it all, I felt that it was seamless. How did you feel about it?
I thought it was really good too. That was one of my key notes with the special effects. The visual special effects in this were maintained very practical. There was no graphics, no CGI, and they kept everything practical. And I think that helped give that organic feel to it, and it was great. The prosthetics that they used on the cage, I was still kind of up there with it in terms of whether or not it was foam latex or silicone, but I think they did a real good job because it looked natural. He looked like what I would imagine his character would have been in real life. And again, it ties to the reality of it. And it is a horror movie, so it was very, very gory.
Yeah, he did look like your cousin.
Yeah, and he's a good-looking guy, Bob. So he, it really did. It did wonders for the imagination, and it got you to forgive him for being Nicolas Cage like he is in other movies, and where he's a different character, but you're looking and you're like, it's Nicolas Cage. He's going to go save the Declaration of Independence while he's racing cars. It wasn't that. It was it was Daddy Longlegs. Longlegs was just, it was insane. I could go on forever and ever. What about you, Victor?
I feel bad about this. I feel kind of. What was the point?
We're talking.
I was entranced by him calling in the cage.
Right.
And can I just say something real quick? Look what you started. We are not calling Nick Cage the Cage.
Hey, say it.
No.
Jay, say it.
Say it. It's good.
Gain control of your show, please.
So the real question was, how real did the cage look to you?
He honestly looked like a glam rock star with bad plastic surgery.
You know what? I kind of see what you're going with. To me, I got a vibe of like, if you've ever seen the movie Strangeland with Dee Snider, I got like Dee's character when he's like playing Jane, past the psychosis, when he had to paint his face because of all the tattoos. I got like a disformed version of that.
Yes, he looked like a guy trying to guess 70s rock star trying to perfect their looks.
Kind of like Jay's twin sister.
I have a twin sister?
Oh, that comes in next episode. Dun dun dun.
Anyways. As for me with the realism, I actually was like enthralled by the timeline that you guys had spoke of earlier, how that played in a lot to the realism, the actual scenery itself too. And as I pointed out earlier, the supernatural aspect of it, the fact that it was so subtly done in this movie, made it feel realistic in a sense, in the end of the day, it's magic, but I almost feel like, damn, that thing could have actually happened, So I love that, just the fact, the mental stability of all of these characters as well. Everything just spoke out to me. So on the realism scale, yeah, it felt good. Not only that, the way it was shot too, it just really well done. It just feels like, yeah, this could have happened. As you stated earlier, and I'm going to use that quote because I just love it so much, Victor. Just 2 steps from reality.
And honestly, all the scenery felt like when you look at the crime scenes, they're disturbing to a certain point, but they have a lived-in feel.
Yeah.
Look at these homes. Look at these like other areas we'll probably talk about with the spoiler review. But they have these like dust. They have this mess that looks like it's
organic feel to them.
Yes, it's like it's an area that's been left
abandoned or lived
sealed off sealed off to be preserved from the character's actions.
All right, I feel like we need to dive deep into this movie, and I believe that covers up all our segments. All right, so we're about to get into the grade, but if you want to see us dive deep into this movie, catch us on our next episode with the Spoiler Zone, where we can really dissect this movie and really get into it. So at this point in juncture, we're going to jump right into our grade. This is now where I get a chance to ask my guess what grade to give this movie. What grade do you give this movie, Clowny?
Honestly, this is my first. I'm giving it an A+. It was magical. It was beautiful. The writing, the directing, the visual effects, the acting by the Cage, everything was beautiful. I loved it. I loved how Mika didn't have to force herself to act the way she acted, or to come across as being damaged or autistic or anything. Like, it all was very organic. Everything. I loved it all. I feel A+.
I'd give an A+ too, just because I think the director really gets what horrifies people at some level, and I don't understand. Well, he is the son of the actor who played Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins. So I don't know if that's where it comes from or not. He did start his acting career where the Osgood Perkins, it was an actor, screenwriter, and now director. So he did start out as a young Norman Bates in one film. But on his film work is very interesting. Some are slower than others, but he does know what terrifies you. He knows how to really just reach into your brain and goes, okay, how can I terrify and make him uneasy for as long as possible? You see a scene, you know you don't feel good, you're creeped out, and you don't understand why.
And I'm actually, going the opposite direction. I'm just kidding, folks. I'm actually giving it an A+ as well. All around great acting, fantastic writing, great use of both genres of the supernatural and criminal thriller. Overall, just nothing negative at all to say. And yes, just for you guys, one more time, all the actors are great. Blair, Mika, and the Cage.
This was a fantastic movie. I cannot find any fault in it. I know trying to be not usually one of the things I do try to do is I try to be a peacekeeper and I try to be as analytical as I can and look at everyone's grade before I debate and decide on mine. But I think one of the things too is always, you look at your taste and how the way you like movies. And I like action movies more than anything else. And but nevertheless, this movie, there's no fault in it. If there is, you probably watched this a lot more times than we did for you to find any fault in this. But overall, A+ all around. I don't think that there's any other thing we can do. Great summer of movies so far. So that's good. That's awesome. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your grace. Thank you very much for being here. Once again, I'm your host, J.R. Alva, voice actor. I'm joined here with
Clowny Gigglesworth, social media content creator.
Victor, writer for Modern Myth Comics.
Jay Anderson, manager at PWL and sometimes commentator.
All right, guys. Well, once again, thank you for joining us. Please follow us on all social media. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell. The algorithm hasn't been too friendly with us, but if you get a chance, comment on the bottom what you guys want us to watch, or if there's anything we need to do different. And if you don't have anything else to comment, please comment
The Cage!
The Cage. Please comment the word The Cage. Once again, thank you guys for watching.